All right, we've got ourselves a nice little table here. This should be 5 to 14 and not 5 to 15. I apologize. And this should say 15 to 35. Okay, so we are first going to find the child dependency ratio. And child dependency, if you recall, is under 15 compared to the working class. And the working class, remember, is 15 to 64. So if we first say, okay, under 15, it's these two groups, and that gives us 21, 25. And then we're going to compare it to the working class, which is 15 to 64. If I add those together, I get 93, 83. So if I divide those two, we're going to go to the nearest thousandths. I end up with 0.226. And this is my child dependency ratio. Now, what does this mean? Well, initially we can put it over 1. And so you, remember, the top number is the children, the bottom number is workers. So, our first sentence could be, there are 0.226 children for every one worker. Well, that doesn't make much sense because you can't have 0.226 of a child. It doesn't work that way. So think about, I can move decimals. If I move this decimal 3 places to put it at the end, that gives me 226 children are dependent on every. Now, if I move it 3 places here, I got to move it 3 places here, which gives me 1,000 workers. And you could move it as many decimals as you want. You could only maybe move it 2. 22.6 rounds to 23 children. Move it 2, that gives me 100 workers. It doesn't really matter, right? You can do it however you want. But it's all about moving decimals and being consistent. Now, if we do old age dependency, now remember that old age is over 65 compared to the working class. So again, over 65 is these two. So that together gives me 2690. And we know from a previous page that our working class, right, this group here is 9383. So when I divide, I get 0.287. So again, interpreting that, we could say there's 0.287 children dependent on every one worker, or we move our decimal. If I move it 3 places to get 287 children, 3 places here gives me 1,000 workers. If I just move it 2 places, 28.7, right, 2 places would be here, that rounds to 29 children to every 100 workers, because if I move this 2 places, I move this 2 places. That adds 2 zeros. So all 3 of those would be correct interpretations of this particular ratio. Age dependency. Now remember, age dependency are the children plus the old fogies divided by the workers. So we're going to take our children and our old people together, which together gives me 4815. And we divide by our working class, which is 9383. When I divide those, I get 0.513. So again, we could say 0.513 children for every one worker. We could move our decimals. We could do 51 children for every 100 workers, because that was a 2 decimal point. Or I could move it 3 places, and that would make it 1,000 workers. It really depends on how many places you want to move it. But remember, anytime you're doing dependency ratios, we're comparing to workers. It has to be the working class. All right. Last one here. Some think, that should say think and not thing. Some think that the 65 to 79 age group should still be the working class, right? People can work longer. Recalculate the age dependency ratio with the 65 to 79 age group as part of the working class. Now you can do this 2 ways. One, you can just add what you've done, or you can work it from the other. Let's do it both ways. Okay, so first thing, we want the dependents on top and the workers on the bottom. So I'm going to make dependents red. We know that the children are dependent, but the 65 to 79-year-olds are now workers. So that makes the 740. So I can add those 3 together and get 2865. And then I'll make the workers orange. The workers now include our normal 15 to 64, but also then the 65 to 79, which bumps my working class up to 11,333. This gives me a new age dependency ratio of 0.253. Now, if you had done the ratio before and you knew that your old age, the previous, I should say previous, your previous age dependency ratio was here. But we're taking away that old group, and we're adding that old group to the working class. So this could be the second way that you do that. You're going to end up with the same thing. It's just a different way of doing it, and it doesn't matter which one you get the same answer, right? We end up with an age, this is the most recent age dependency ratio with those older people, is 0.253. So you can see by adding the 65 to 79 year group to the working class, it lowers it lowers your dependency ratio. It went from 0.513 to 0.253, definitely lowered. This is undesirable because look, these old people are working longer. We don't want that. However, we have way less dependence. So it's desirable in the fact that we have less dependence, but it's undesirable because we have people working longer. So a little bit of good and bad there.